Everybody wants a church to be a safe place, but it can't be a safe place while it's a safe place for unsafe people. And there are unsafe people in the world. Every test becomes a testimony, right? And God takes the raw materials of these awful things we experience. It's not that He causes the awful things, but He is sovereign and He can use what happens. And so He takes the raw materials of these traumas and difficulties that we have, and He fashions out of them ministries. And that is what happened with Project Safe Church. So the trauma that began that process occurred when I was a brand new Christian. I was extremely young and idealistic and all excited about the faith and all excited about the Three Angels message and the health message. And I joined a ministry that ran a restaurant in downtown Manhattan. The individual that started the restaurant and ran it was an extremely gifted, charismatic individual with deep sociopathy, sociopathic tendencies, narcissism, and he proceeded throughout the duration of the time I was there, which was about 6 years, to prey upon just about every woman in that ministry. So some ways into my time at this ministry, I was taking a big responsibility running a store, and he was kind of my boss in a sense. And he started to cross lines, physical lines, touching me unnecessarily, saying things that were inappropriate. And eventually he really did cross a line and came at me one night in a dark corner of this restaurant where I worked. I repelled him successfully, pushed back, did not cooperate with the things that he wanted to do there. So I came out of that experience pretty scarred, and actually at a certain point went to the director that was over the man and complained about what was happening, and the guy shut me down and told me it was my fault, basically. Whenever you have a system, a small social system, or even a large one, and there are these very strong figures that give a sense of identity to that system, such as a pastor in a church or a leader of a ministry, the people in that system are going to prefer that leader, because to lose that leader is to lose the system. And so the social system is geared toward enabling, really, the leader. And the victims of this abuse are often dismissed because they're not as valuable to the system. And I felt that firsthand and went through that experience. And out of that grew a ministry. So for many years, I did this kind of ministering to victims of clergy sexual misconduct and abuse on a casual level. And particularly as a counselor, I would minister to people and kind of try to help them. So that's been going on in my life for many years. But it wasn't until recently that I was able to sort of pull it all together with the help of some colleagues into a ministry called Project Safe Church. And, Jesus said, "Be wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove." So part of our training in the gospel is to be wise and to be able to see evil, to spot it, and to protect vulnerable people against it. That's where Project Safe Church comes in on the issue of sexual abuse in a church context. We provide training for unions, for church leaders, so that and consultation so that they can set up systems that will not only prevent abuse, but will give them steps that they can follow for dealing with abuse when it unfortunately happens. Nobody will hold against us that a church leader abuses. It's just, everybody knows that there's going to be some bad apples, right? The world will not hold it against us. What the world will hold against us is if we have no structures in place or no anything in place to help deal, if we don't deal effectively with these situations. So that's what we're trying to do with Project Safe Church. We don't entertain the notion that we're going to, although it would be wonderful, we're going to get all abusers out of the church, but we're going to work toward that. That's certainly our goal. And more than that, we're going to deal faithfully with it when it happens. So we're going to do all we can to prevent abuse, and then we're going to do all we can to faithfully deal with abuse once it happens, because if we don't, then God's name is blasphemed among the Gentiles. And if you're going to leave them in leadership, what kind of message are you giving the congregants? What kind of message are you giving the young people? And this is what we see over and over, is that when the church doesn't act appropriately toward a corrupt and dangerous leader, the message they give the young people is so deleterious, that institutional betrayal is so impacting on those young people that they will leave. And the kind of work that we're engaging in, we're saying, no, this needs to be done well, and we need to be faithful instead of glossing over the sins of leaders. We need to be faithful and have appropriate justice. It's very evangelistic to young people because they want to see that in the churches. And when they see that other people in the church are actually pushing back against that and trying to bring a more responsible approach, it's very heartening to them, and I think winning. So for the most part, I have found Adventist leadership to be ready for this, to be open to it, and to embrace what we have to offer. And of course, none of us can do it alone. We certainly can't do it, but we can train them in something we have not only experienced in our personal life, but have studied in our professional life, and we can offer them that, and then they have their part to play because they're in ecclesiastical leadership and they can do things that we can't do. So we have to work as a team, and we have found many leaders in the church are not only open to this, but ready for it.